Hey y'all, it's Doug McGuff with drmcguff.com. I just finished a workout. It was a solo mission, so I'm talking to you holding my GoPro stick as I walk around my facility. I just wanted to share some thoughts with you post-workout, and please realize this is totally unscripted, and I just came off the leg press, so I may not be completely coherent. But I just wanted to make a comment about something that I've been seeing recently. I'm listening to lots of podcasts where high-intensity training and the Body by Science method are brought up to the person being interviewed. And almost universally, the response is not hostile, but the response is sort of like kissing your sister. And it goes something like this. Well, I think it's really, for a large majority of the population, a great approach to training because the return on investment for the time invested is really good, and it will get you X percentage, varying anywhere from 65 to 95% of the way to your genetic potential in a very time efficient fashion. And as such, it's ideal for housewives, busy professionals, people who otherwise don't have a lot of time. But the caveat is, if you want to get really serious and get that last 5 to 15% of your development, then you're going to have to do something more. And then the argument is usually conflated with an example of some sort of strength athlete, such as a power lifter, Olympic lifter, or CrossFit Games competitor. And the problem with conflating that is that if you're going to be competing in something that is a weightlifting type activity, of course you're going to have to do something different, because then you're talking about a specific skill training that involves weightlifting or weight training. And as such, a Body by Science approach may actually confound the results that you're seeking for that specific competition. But take that out of the equation. Let's say it's other sports that can't really be conflated with weight training. That is, lifting a barbell or something of that nature are not part of the competition, or at least not a major part of the competition. Then I think the argument falls apart, because Body by Science and high-intensity training is a very effective way at getting strength and metabolic conditioning done in a very time-efficient manner, which then allows you to devote a lot more time to the specific skill training of your sport. And I think it makes it ideal for competitive athletes in that realm. But in any case, that's my response to the typical response when you ask someone in the health and fitness realm about Body by Science, and they give this sort of kissing your sister compliment about the training protocol. And it usually gets dropped at that point. But the one thing I would always be tempted to hear an interviewer ask is, if that premise is correct, if it gets you 85% of the way there, but doesn't really tap your genetic potential, and you wouldn't be able to compete against people that are using more voluminous training protocols, the one question I would love to ask is, then why did Alex Fergus win the Real Fit contest at PaleoFX against dozens of other competitors training by the method that you espouse, usually some sort of powerlifting or CrossFit paradigm, and he did nothing but pure Body by Science type training going into that competition? Didn't even practice the skill of deadlifting before he entered the deadlift portion of that competition. So that would be one question that I would really like to see answered with regard to high intensity training. Now, what are my feelings about this in general? So my feeling is this. I like the approach that Mark Andreessen takes to ideas and in his company. I heard this on a Tim Ferriss podcast, and that is strong beliefs held loosely, meaning a willingness to change your mind on a quick turn of a dime if evidence is presented that should sway you. So what I would like to say about strength training in general is it is the best activity that you can do for your health and longevity. And as such, I really don't care what method or modality that someone uses to get involved in resistance exercise, as long as that method does not put you at risk for serious injury. And that does eliminate large swatches of things that are fairly popular right now, but it leaves lots of other things in place that are not body by science. I think what we have to acknowledge is that the adaptation we're seeking can be gotten at by many different routes. The end product of which is you have to recruit and fatigue a certain amount of musculature, in particular, the higher order motor units. And there are different ways of getting there. Body by science is just one of them. You can get at them through a multi-set training approach that goes sub-failure and gradually builds to accumulating fatigue to get at those motor units. And one must admit that that is, although a generally more time-consuming way to train, it's much more pleasant. And that's the dark side of a high intensity and especially a body by science approach is, yes, it's very time efficient. It is a direct pathway to the end stimulus which we are seeking, which is recruitment and fatigue. But there are no shortcuts along the way. It is a direct pathway, and as such, it makes it an extremely intense and extremely unpleasant way to train. And that will turn off a certain percentage of the population. But it does not mean that it's not valid. And it doesn't mean that another approach is not valid. And I'm fine with another approach as long as it's not an approach that invokes explosive lifting and movement patterns that would put you at danger. But having heard this statement come up over and over again in different interviews, I felt that I would be remiss if I didn't give my input as to the potential answer to that question. So I'm really getting cotton mouthed now, so I'm going to stop talking, and I'll look forward to you guys on the next video. For right now, this is Doug McGuff, drmcguff.com, signing out. Bye-bye.